Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Melvin on the Mic, and today I'm on the mic with Craig Bush, a comedian, writer, and I got the pleasure of getting to know Craig and meet Craig through a previous job, comedy driving, but Craig's got a pretty interesting history in the comedy world, so I'm going to kind of throw it over to you, Craig, and let you tell us a little bit about
Yes,
about
comedy
that.
driving is where we met. But way before then, I was selling Sunshine at Night. Yeah, I started doing comedy back in '85. Worked out of the workshop downtown,
Okay.
a comedy workshop. Bill Hicks, a couple other, Ron Shaw, a couple of guys just come through there. So I started there and pretty much got bit by the comedy bug, so I've been doing a lot of it. This was way back in the, what we call it, the 20th century. The 20th century, before all of the anything. Atari, that was the first one. Remember the gifts we got back then?
Yeah, Atari 2600?
No, before then. I'm
Tennis
a baby
Atari.
boomer. I'm talking Hot Wheel tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Hungry Hippo.
Yep.
Slinky.
Slinky.
The Slip and Slide.
Slip and slide into a nail.
Yeah. Twister. Remember the Pet Rock?
Yeah, the days of the metal slides that are rusted.
Yeah, when kids were kids, when you drank out of the water hose outside,
Yes.
you didn't afraid of falling off a bike. Nowadays, a kid fall off a bike, too many people around. You okay?
They throw a mattress under them to catch the fall.
Amazon got foam hurt kits, where you can outline your whole house, all hard surfaces with foam edges and have plugs that goes to all the outlets so he doesn't stick. No. How is he going to know not to stick something in an outlet unless he sticks something in an outlet?
Get a little shock.
Right. He's a kid. We rode a bike. We didn't need helmets,
Nope.
elbow pads, knee pads. You just got on and rode.
Yeah. Shook it off and got back.
If your foot slipped off that pedal,
Just keep it clear of the spokes, and otherwise you're fine.
your foot slipped off the pedal, centrifugal force and gravity takes over, and but you didn't do it again. You got on, But kids nowadays, but everybody's soft nowadays though, really.
Yeah.
Even in just the process of people using their brains, you ask someone anything, they have to Google it.
Yep.
We're in that age.
Everything's at arm's reach. Smartphones make us dumb.
Immediately too.
Yep.
Want that information immediately. And everyone has. I remember when phones first came out, the cell phones. A lot of people were telling their kids at 12 years old, you cannot have a phone. At 11. Now everyone has a phone. You see 4-year-olds with a phone.
That's at the dinner table or when you're out to eat at a restaurant. What do they have in front of them? A phone or a tablet?
And that is what everyone has. So it's a disconnect. So you'll see a family out. The father, the mother, the 3 kids. The dad is texting. The mom is talking. The kids playing a game. Another one is email. Another one's on Snapchat,
Yep.
TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. So they're together, but they're not together.
Yep.
The
They're
phone
there.
has kind of made us. It's like an electronic leash
Exactly.
for all of us.
That was, I've been on a few cruises and people ask me, what do? You get disconnected from everything. I was like, exactly.
You have to.
The only thing
If
the only connection I need is to be able to share the pictures I took. Other than that, I don't need to know what you're doing on Facebook
What
and
you're
Instagram
eating,
and all.
what I had for lunch.
Yeah, I don't care. I want to enjoy my vacation.
I have an early meeting with HR this morning, so I'm just going to have a brand muffin, and I'm probably out the door. Who are you talking to, man? Just a disconnect. If you don't think it's a disconnect, watch how you feel if you leave home and you left your phone. It's just some type of antsy feeling that you have.
Anxiety.
Just because a little small, because you're going to be back home later. Some people actually leave at lunch, not have lunch, go home to get their phone as opposed to eating their lunch.
Yep.
The phones, electronic leash. And, but you got to have it. Do you know anyone's number by heart anymore?
I know about five
Ooh, I know.
numbers for emergencies, and it's all family members and maybe like 2 or 3 close friends. Just because back before we had smartphones, I had to actually dial those numbers.
Exactly, we had to. But you're good because I remember 0.
Oh,
The
wow.
only numbers I remember,
911.
911, the social,
Yeah.
I know my driver's license number, and my birthday, of course. I don't know my license plate number, but I do know my driver's license number. I know my account number.
Yeah. I used to know my license plate number, but the car I'm driving now, I've had it about a year. And the plates, like usually if the plate is something kind of catchy, I'll remember it. This one's nothing catchy about it whatsoever, so I don't remember it. But yeah, remembering things, it's crazy. Like we absorb so much of our brain with so much day-to-day tasks and online things. Like I finally had to get a password manager a few years back for all the online stuff I do, because my personal accounts, alongside of all the professional accounts I manage for the places I work and the services I monitor. I looked at it yesterday because I was showing it to a coworker and suggesting to her, hey, you should look into a password manager. I pulled mine up. I have 388 passwords. Now, could I remember all 388 of those?
Could you remember 88 of those?
Probably about 20, 25 is what I would say I could remember off the top of my head.
I think you're doing pretty good if you remember that different. I have 3 different passwords, and I have them written down.
Oh.
And then I forget the places where I have it written down. I'm finding old baby pictures and old driver's license. And
so password reset your best friend.
found a receipt when gas was $1.30.
Oh, man.
Way back, because for some reason I keep all just useless paperwork receipts.
I used to keep all my receipts. Now I only keep the important ones, or if I'm going to get some sort of reimbursement. And that's.
Right. But technology is really taking over our lives. Even in the sense of, do you ever see someone that's, what do you call it? I'm going to apologize to these people because now I have a Bluetooth. I used to always say Bluetooth people in their own little world because they're coming up to you, talking to you, but I did not know they can't hear you.
And they got a little earbud in, and you don't realize they're on it.
Until I got one, I was like, oh, I can't hear. So I'm talking, and I'm in people's space, and they think I'm talking to them. And it used to happen to me a lot. I was at the station one day, and this lady walked up to me, and she said, are you going to the class reunion this year? And I'm looking around. There's nobody over there but me, and she's looking at me. And I say, the class reunion? She said, yes, Steve and Barbara's going to be there. I don't know nobody named. Who the hell is Barbara? And she's like, I'm in a full conversation with her, almost 30 seconds. I said, so who else is going to be there? What high school did you go? What year did you come out? She realizes I'm talking to her. She's like, oh, pardon me? I said, oh, Mel, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me. She says, why would I be talking to you? I don't know who you are.
I said, you said, that's what I was thinking, too.
Yeah, I said, but you're looking right at me. She said, just because I'm looking at you doesn't mean I'm talking to you. I'm like, oh, my. Well, but now I have Bluetooth, so I do understand.
Yeah.
But I fell for it so many times. I had a flashback one time. Just had a complete meltdown. I'm at CVS, and this lady walked up to me and said, are you going to pick the kids up from soccer practice?
And you're like, what kids?
I said, why you can't pick them up? You see I'm busy? Think I'm going to stop doing what I'm going to do? No, I said, I tell you what, if you don't pick the kids up, they're not getting picked up. She said, what did you just say to me? I said, excuse me, ma'am, I'm on the phone right now. Had to play it off. But now I got hilarious. A Bluetooth, and you got the Facebook lady. You got the old people now. What about the older guys in their 80s going through their third midlife crisis? Walking around with skinny jeans.
Oh, God, man.
And tattoos. And iPhones. Walking around looking like a wisdom tooth. Old guy, 80. His license been suspended 2 years, but he don't drive. I don't need no license to drive no car. Everything he need to drive a car is what he said he don't need to drive a car. I don't need no dexterity and insurance and license and registration and all that.
He's got age exemption, right?
All I need are my keys, the essentials. Because think about it, when you go to the DPS office and they give you they evaluate you, to have the medical advisory board evaluate you to see if you're going to be able to keep your license, if you lost dexterity or anything. So once they revoke your license, they take your license, but they don't take your keys.
Yeah.
So you drive off mad with no license, but my side of town, those old people run it.
What area are you in?
I'm on the east side. I'm over in Pleasantville.
Okay.
Doesn't it sound pleasant?
Is it really called Pleasantville?
It's called Pleasantville. I
never even heard of it.
You ever notice it's right at I-10 and 610?
Okay.
Right by the Ship Channel, right? You know Galena Park?
Which one?
Galena Park?
Yes.
C.E. King?
Yes.
North Shore, that same area.
North Shore, I remember.
Aren't those beautiful names? If you came from another city and you say, I'm moving to Houston, I don't know a lot about Houston, but I'm just going to figure out the neighborhood by the name. Pleasantville. Ooh. Sunnyside. Don't that sound like a great place to live? Sunnyside?
Yeah.
Acres Homes. There's one place over there called Fidelity. What would be better than Fidelity?
Acres Homes is right next to where I grew up.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
On the 4-4?
Yep.
Okay.
I was in Inwood Pines, and my house backed up to woods. Those woods were about 2 blocks deep. On the other side of those woods were Acres Homes.
There you go.
Spent the first 40 years of my life right there.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So how does it feel? So you tell me you have an unblockable turnaround jumper. If you grew up in Acres Home, I know you got an unblockable fadeaway.
Oh yeah. Man, it was a crazy. It was a different way to grow up, and I didn't realize it until
You had grown up.
Yeah, I started working, side stuff with my uncles when I was like 14.
Mm-hmm.
Got my first official job at 16. Worked at grocery store down the street, and then eventually I ended up at the mall. And then it wasn't until I started working at the mall, getting around these other kids from these other, let's just say, nicer schools,
Right.
that I realized how different
Less
the
rigid.
school was that I went to. Was our school terrible? No. Was there a lot of violent acts on a regular basis? Yes. Did we have to pass through metal detectors every morning? Yeah. Could we have backpacks? No. Were there shootings and stabbings in the school? Yes. So when I went to the mall and started working with these other kids, they had a completely different background and upbringing. So, but what I take from that and what I do, I guess you could say appreciate about that is you have a better firm understanding of both sides of life, and then as well as street sense and
Exactly.
and making sure to, when you're in public, to always have that self-awareness of what's going on around you.
Situational awareness.
Situational awareness is what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
I can spot a fight, a good 3 to 5 minutes before it officially happens.
You're clairvoyant. huh?
Body language. When I worked in nightlife, I always remember this. The bouncers, we all had our flashlights, and I wasn't a bouncer, but I
But
watched.
you
the
had a
floor.
flashlight.
Yeah, and so I'd pop them beep 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 with the flashlight, and then nod. And the first couple of times I did it, they were like, "What's he even talking about?" And then, sure enough, about 2 minutes later, the fight broke out, and so then they were like,
How did you know?
How did you know that was about to happen? I was like, because I'm watching every single
Yeah.
person. I see this dude over here trying to talk to this
You
chick.
see
I
that-
can see
you
the
see the tone
I
and
can
the
see
animation.
the homeboy on the side, like mad dogging, like, why is he looking at my girl? He's leaning in, talking to his buddies on the side. She goes back over. They have some words, and then she goes back out to the dance floor, and that's it, you
Yeah.
know?
You-
But you spot it, like,
You were still in signs.
yeah. So
Still in signs.
that was just, if there wasn't a fight
It was about to be
at
one.
school, I was more worried about what was going to happen in the parking lot after
Yeah.
school if I didn't see at least
Yeah,
one fight
if there
during the
wasn't
day.
a fight, it was like, why?
Yeah.
So either there's a fight or there's about to be one.
Yeah.
Like my friend, either he's drunk or he's drinking.
Yep.
Same difference.
So I take it from what you're saying, Pleasantville isn't too pleasant, or is it?
Oh no, it's lovely.
Is it?
I was just saying it's an older community now.
Okay.
Yeah, much older community now. So I don't see many young people over there actually.
That's kind
Unless they're
of,
over there to help their older family members.
yeah, and that,
It's kind of quiet. Not like North Shore. North Shore is a lot of young kids, a lot of action, a lot of movement. But
Yep.
Pleasantville, we're laid back. I would say that North Shore would be more like Ozzy. I'm more like Steely Dan.
Going to, when I went to Eisenhower, and North Shore was one of our rival schools. And
Smiley too.
Yep, and the reason I remember
I went to
North Shore
Smiley.
is my brother, he went out to this, I think the place was called, and I could be wrong on the name, but I think it was called Club Malahini's. And it was like an outdoor volleyball place. And so he went with some friends, and when he went out to leave, his car was gone. Got stolen. By the time they found it, it had NSD scratched all over it, North Shore District. And they destroyed the car, basically. And so they weren't just rivals as far as teams and football. After that, we were like, F North Shore.
This is territorial now.
Yeah.
This got more to do with the
I
sport.
didn't even really know where that was until that happened.
Yeah.
But you live and learn, right? You
They
live and
won
learn.
state, was it year before last?
You're asking the
Yeah, I
wrong
think,
person.
yeah.
I don't even follow our national sports or our
You
local
know,
sports. So I
you
definitely
follow,
not
you follow
following it.
sports. You're following Shohei Ohtani.
Who?
Shohei Ohtani. He's the pitcher for the Angels, for the Los Angeles Angels.
I only know one Astros player named Altuve.
Jose Altuve.
That's the only one I name.
the,
No,
the
I couldn't tell
kid.
you. I don't know who's on the Rockets. I don't know who's on the Texans.
So do you know stats? If like, okay, this guy is a pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I was to tell you that, and he did, if I was to tell you that he drove in 8 runs, struck out 13, and he stole a base, would that mean anything?
Not really.
Because he's a pitcher.
Yeah.
He hit 48 home runs last year.
Wow.
48.
Wow.
And he's a pitcher.
You wouldn't think they could crank one out with their arm being worn out from throwing all the pitches.
And they don't take
crazy.
batting practice.
Yeah.
Because they only play every 5 days. So why take batting practice if I'm not playing? And when I am playing, I'm only throwing. So how do you get good at batting if you don't take batting practice?
About
And if you're taking batting practice, then why are you not a good or better pitcher?
Yep.
So.
Pretty much the only sports I really get into is if somebody's like, "Hey, I got some free tickets to a game," and then I'll be like,
complimentary sports.
I'll be like, "Okay, I'll go," because to see it in person is different. It's an experience.
I love live entertainment. I love sports.
But
I'm always at the Rockets game. Probably why I think I'm jinxing them.
I enjoy it when I go, but you're never gonna just catch me sitting in front of a TV for a couple hours watching a game because I'm too busybody, and you know I work on a million projects. I'm gonna be editing videos. I'm gonna be shooting new content. Be working on a podcast. You know,
exactly.
So I'm always keeping busy with other things.
I'll be the concierge. You got a lot of doors to open here.
Yeah. So Craig's visiting my place for the first time, and so I gave him a tour of my place, and it's just funny to see people's reaction when I give them the tour.
I feel like I'm in L.A. again.
Yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about that, L.A. and I know you mentioned some of the tours that you did when you were a comedian, or you're still a comedian, but
still doing stand up. Don't travel as much because I could. Well, if you can't get them fly you in. For a while, I was afraid of flying for some reason. I had to get over that anxiety. But I did a lot of flying, a lot of overseas flying. I moved to L.A. in '91. I did some writing for Steve Harvey, and of course, got chased by a couple of gangs. That's always a part of it.
That's cool that you worked with Harvey. Now in '91, what was Harvey doing at that time?
He was doing. He had the radio show in L.A. and he had a show called Big Time. It's kind of like the America's Got Talent show now.
Okay.
It was just a display of a lot of people with different variety of talents. And I wrote for a couple other shows for him, his radio show, and then I got into performing for the troops.
That's awesome.
And that's when I really just like yeah. That's when it really meant bringing them a sense of home was more. It was like giving them more than they were giving me.
Yeah.
We did shows where they are. I have a shot that I have to show you a picture. I did a show in Iraq. The entire audience all holding M16s.
If you can find that picture, get it to me so that when I do the edit of this, we'll share it. And for those of you who are only listening to the podcast and maybe not watching it on YouTube, you might have to come over to YouTube to check this one out so you can see that picture.
The entire audience is holding, because they have to have their rifle with them, holding M16.
Nice.
Yeah. Went to Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Japan many times, although I thought I was Japanese. Me and Ray, another fellow comedian, went to Amsterdam and Port Hague. I loved Amsterdam, man. I was thinking about getting me an all-black outfit and a bicycle.
Oh, yeah?
I'm staying here. I like it here.
I hear it's nice, man. I haven't done any European traveling or any. The only traveling I've really done outside of the U.S. has been I went to the Philippines, and then the destinations I've been to on the cruises, and that's it. But nothing over Asia, Europe, any of that.
Yeah, the cruises are nice. I did a couple of cruises. I don't like the water. I'd rather fly than float.
I feel you on that, man.
So I kind of wouldn't book most of those shows.
So when you went abroad and you were doing these shows for the troops, what time frame or what wars or what were the?
Well, it was around from 97 to 2003, and then periodically throughout. I was there during the Gulf War.
Okay.
Have a plaque presented to me from General Odinero. But it ranged from 97 to 2011. Last time I went was 2011.
Okay.
Had a ball.
I
Had a
could
ball.
be misspeaking, but I can't remember for sure because I know Ray has told me a little bit of some of the visiting he did, and I think he mentioned that one of the tours he went with Paul Wall, the rapper Paul Wall.
Okay.
Was he with you on any of those?
No, we just did comedy tours.
So I wonder, or maybe he met Paul Wall. Maybe I'm
Yeah, I
getting
doubt if
stories
we went
mixed
with-
up.
I mean, we did Carrie. He was over there, the female cowboy cheerleaders.
Oh yeah, yeah. What would
They would get booked. Oh, they were getting paid so much just to take pictures. I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to do an hour of jokes. All you got to do is stand there and take
Smile.
a picture. Yes.
But they had to walk around in them boots.
Mhm. And then outside.
So if they're over there in Iraq in those vinyl or leather
Yeah,
boots
they
up to
earned
their
it.
knees,
They did earn it.
yeah.
It was burning. It was like 117 in Bahrain. I had never been so many. I was in Bahrain. You know, Bahrain, it's like conservative.
Okay.
It seemed to be. I mean, it's just like it was clubs everywhere.
I don't even. Where is Bahrain? I'm not even familiar with
It
that
was
one.
in the Middle East,
Okay, Middle East.
not far from Saudi Arabia.
Okay, okay. So I'm assuming a lot of the time you were going into military bases,
Yes.
and then I guess since you mentioned there are clubs and stuff, you got to go and do a little bit of partake in some of the local stuff as well.
All of it.
Nice, man.
They're like our liaisons. You know, they're like they take us to the shows, drive us to the airport. So they're actually the MRW, the
Uh-huh.
Morale Welfare Recreation Program, actually takes care of all the coming. So they travel you. So you're just sitting back like a actual okay
Celebrity status.
Yes,
You
yes.
were. I mean, you were a
Yes.
celebrity when you're doing that kind of stuff,
And then
man.
the fact that you just have a little sense of home. It's like the shows. They love the troops. The troops love comedians from America, from the States.
It's a moment where they can feel like they're
They're
not in the
home
middle of a
again.
crisis. They're not in the middle of a war. They
Yeah.
can laugh. They can block out
and I
anything
love
that's
it.
going on for a brief moment.
I enjoyed it so much. Got shot at. Do you know Slim Bloodworth? She's a female comedian.
I don't.
Did you know any comics from the Comedy Store? I just called out.
No,
Bill
because
Hicks
Comedy
and a couple
Store
other
is.
comics.
Well, I know the name Bill Hicks. I don't know him, but I know.
Well, there
who
was
that
one
is.
guy named Stephen Giuliano Moore. He was a comic also. He's still around. He's in Florida now.
Yeah, so you got a few years on me because that Comedy Store.
Yeah. What was
I
the
didn't
Hot
really-
Wheel Track reference gave it away?
Nah.
The jump rope.
Well, when you said you were going
Marbles,
to when
jacks.
you were doing the stuff in '96, that was when I graduated high school. You know, so
Wow.
yeah.
He came out in '96.
Yep.
He came out in '81.
Wow.
My first-
So I was born in '78. So you,
Wow, I was a freshman. My first apartment, I paid $115 a month.
and it probably seemed like a lot at the time, right?
Yes, but it was a lot. I mean, I had a patio. It was laid out, groovy. I'm
Nice.
like, $150.
I was telling a friend the other day, or recapping with a friend the other day, and I was like, remember when we would take each other to school, whoever had the car, and you would give them $5 a week for gas, and
Yeah, good.
that was good. If you were carpooling with 2 or 3 people, $15 of gas, that filled you up twice for the whole week. It was more than you needed
Yes.
because back then gas was 78 cents
I
a
remember
gallon.
that. I remember that as well.
78 cents. I always remember this. There was a gas station directly across the street, 78 cents. It was a Texaco. Yeah, so it's like
I
$5
remember
a
that as
week. Now
well.
it'd be like, that would get you home one day. That's 1 gallon.
That'll get you to the next gas station.
Yeah.
I had a Dodge Dart.
Oh wow.
Oh, Dodge Dart had quirks. I call them quirks. You just have to know a little bit about it when you ride with me. Now, when you get in the car, man, let me give you a little rundown of some stuff. You need to know this. First there's a hole in the floor. I know you don't see it. There's a mat over it. It would be cool because that mat wasn't over it. You could actually
Fall
kick
through.
the ground. Well, it's big enough for your feet to go through.
Go Flintstoning.
This door doesn't lock. It doesn't close. So if I ever make a left, this probably won't happen. But if I make a left, you're leaning on that door, you could fall out.
Rolling out.
And just know some other things about it. No radio. You know what I'm saying?
It got you where you needed to go, though, right?
Yeah, but it did lose me one. Oh man, I like this girl, Laura. I won't say her last name, but yeah, she fell out the car one time.
Oh man.
But I told her, I said, look, do not lean. It's okay if the door opens and you're sitting up, then you won't fall out. But if you're leaning, against that door when I make this left, chances are it may not happen, but there's a good chance that you will fall out of the car. And I don't know if she forgot because we went on a couple of dates, so I know you knew.
She got relaxed and comfortable.
Yes. Like she forgot the door. Did not. You could close it and open it, but it wouldn't clasp.
It wouldn't clasp.
Right.
Wow.
So you had to open it with your shoulder. She knew that. And so she took a fall one day, and I jumped up, went around, stopped the car, and got her up and dusted her off.
She got a little road rash.
Put her back in the car. She said, "Take me home." I'm like, "Come on, baby. Well, don't let this come between us. This is not. We'll look back at this and laugh."
Well, if Laura's watching, maybe she's laughing now. You know.
Take me home. She was mad. I said, "Okay, we'll get past this though."
That's funny, man.
Yeah, I grew up back then. I went to Smiley, although Eisenhower, MacArthur, Aldine, a lot of those schools were our rivals, but you weren't there yet.
No.
You were just, oof. You were walking around with no worries.
I think.
No rent.
Yeah.
No lights. No gas. Probably didn't have a bill coming your name.
Nah, none of that stuff till started paying for some things on my own when I hit about 16. Because
you had to promote manhood and you had to give you some bill.
Yeah.
That's understood.
I can't remember, things are, it's like, the other day I was thinking to myself, talking about technology and all the things that we do nowadays. I feel like we're constantly consuming content, whether it's on our phones or on the computer or on TV. Consume, right? Your brain only has so much memory space, right? So eventually the things that you used to remember, the long
you kick out
things, they get replaced. And so I started thinking the other day about my childhood, and I was like, man, like I remember little things here and there, but I feel like I used to remember specific things in more detail and like scenarios. And sometimes like my siblings or my parents will tell me like a story of something I did when I was a kid. And I'm like, really?
And you don't remember?
I don't remember at all, and it's like, and I feel like personally, I attribute that to the ridiculous amount of content that I consume on a daily basis, because like I mentioned about not really caring to watch sports, I will say that my downfall is that even if I am editing videos or working on projects, I almost always have a movie or a TV series running on like Netflix or something kind of off to the side. Mm-hmm. So I'm multitasking, but I watch a lot of movies and TV shows on a regular basis. It's like I go to Netflix. I have every streaming service you can imagine because I go through, try to find something to watch, and I watched everything, right? So that's how much I'm consuming. And then you throw YouTube in the mix, and I have a ton of people I follow on YouTube and watch regularly. But I feel like all that consumption of content.
Do you remember when movies came out like 2 within a month?
Yeah. Now that was like 4 in a weekend.
At least.
And then they're only in the theater for about 60 days before they hit streaming.
If that long.
I think COVID's to blame for part of that, though, to be honest, because it used to be that they were at least 6 months or so. But when they had all these big movies slated for release, and we were in the midst of COVID, these movie companies, they needed to get them out for time relevance. And so that was when they started that partnership with HBO. And a lot of them were releasing simultaneously in the theater and HBO. But then, of course, they learned, well, nobody's going to go to the theater. They're just going to watch it on HBO.
Right, stream it.
So I feel like the time from movie theater to streaming is a month or two. And it's crazy to think the big budgets that they put into these movies and how quickly they the shelf life is so short compared to what it used to be. Remember the Dollar Theater?
Mm-hmm. I sure do. Right there on Pierce and Preston, right down the street from here.
Okay,
Remember they had one theater on one street, Majestic Metro,
straight down the street on
Preston, right?
Main. Yeah.
And then on Pierce, the next block, there was another movie theater.
See, but those, for me, I never saw any of those. But when I'm talking about the Dollar Cinema, for me, it was like 290 and West Road or something like that.
Okay, yeah, these were $1 to go there. I used to go watch one movie and then walk to the next movie theater because I always had different movies playing at each theater.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, which one do I want? You had to pick from the movie. Sometimes you can only pick one because you only had enough money to watch that one movie. Or you could stay and just
sneak into
another,
I got a funny story about that, man. So I-10 and Silver, that big Edwards movie theater.
Yeah.
One of my first times I went there, I noticed that outside of the theater, they had the little marquee, and the marquee had the movie
Right.
and the times, right?
Yep.
So once I learned that, there was a couple of times where I went and looked up all the show times on online. I figured out how long the movies were, and I made a schedule for myself. And I would go in there with like a hoodie or a jacket and then a hat. And then when I would get to the theater, I would go early for the first movie so that I could walk the whole theater and find out from the marquee which screen each movie was going to be on.
Right.
And then I put it on my list, right? And so in between each movie, I would either take the hat off or take off the hoodie and leave the hat. And then I would stop by the concessions and get a drink or popcorn. And I would watch like 4 movies or 5 movies in one day, but only pay for the first one.
Man, when I was on the road, that was my thing. I'd go to the movie theater because when I was on the road, it was a lot of small towns. On the weekend, I would actually be in a major city.
Uh-huh.
But during that week, I would be, if I was in Florida, for example, at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'd be in Tallahassee, maybe Fort Walton Beach, Panama Beach,
Yeah.
Pensacola. And then on the weekend, maybe Orlando, Tampa. You know, if I'm in Pennsylvania, I'm in York, Sharon, you know, Altoona. But then on the weekend, you know, maybe
Yeah.
Philly or Pittsburgh. So a lot of times I was just in a little small town with nothing to do. I'd try to find a movie theater or a batting cage.
Oh, that's fun
That's my
too.
thing. Yeah. Or putt-putt golf.
Yeah.
You know, someone was so small you didn't have time. So I just spent my time just in hotels, traveling, doing jokes and missing holidays.
And there was less
Family.
entertaining things to do at that time. The putt and batting cages in movie theaters, maybe go karts in some places.
If you're lucky enough, I mean, if you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, you know.
There's nothing there.
What's in Hattiesburg, Mississippi?
Middle of nowhere. Should have taken up a photography or drawing or something.
Well, I was writing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
doing stand-up, so I was just writing jokes all day. I just write, and then just development into bits, and just come after the show, I'd get off stage. Unless there was a club you could find somewhere to go, because
Yeah.
who wants to go right back to the hotel room after you've been there all day long anyway? So if you find somewhere to hang out and go out until it's time to get sleepy and do it again tomorrow, you know you would.
So are you doing any kind of touring or anything these days? Or are you mostly just sticking to?
I'm regional. I'm
Okay.
regional. I went to New York a couple of years ago to do a taping, but I'm regional because you know I do the defensive driving, so
Yeah.
I want to be able to drive back.
Yeah.
So if it is close enough for me to leave and be back the next morning, if I'm going to Killeen, you know, was it 3 hours?
About 3. Yeah.
I can leave after the show and drive back. Corpus.
So in
Dallas.
Killeen, are you doing it at the base there as well?
No, there's a little club outside the base.
Okay. So for those of you listening or watching, Killeen is one of our hubs in the Texas area for military base, and
Yes,
so it's
sir.
kind of outside of Austin, San Antonio, correct?
Yep, just north of Austin,
Yeah. So
about 80 miles.
most of the time when I hear Killeen, my first assumption is something military related. So
Yeah, it is military. But I'm just saying if it's close enough like that, I'll even go to Baton Rouge. That's 4 hours.
yeah.
You know, if I can just make it back. I just went to Corpus, did a show, left after the show, drove back so I could teach my class. So normally, if I can make it back, I'll take it. But I've turned down some gigs that were in St. Louis and Alabama. No.
The only thing we really have left here is
The Improv.
improv, right?
Right. You got a couple of, you have the secret group.
Yeah.
Right. And then a couple of.
Are they doing comedy shows
nights.
there regularly, or is
Yeah.
it more okay?
It's comedy. Right. But they're more like comedy nights as opposed to a comedy club.
Yeah, I remember. I've known Jeff a long time.
Jeff,
Bittner.
did you know he was he did hypnosis?
Did you know that I was his sound guy and video guy for that?
No. Was it at the club on Willow?
Willowbrook? No, he
Yeah.
was. So I'll kind of do a quick run through on that. So I know Jeff because he went to high school with my sisters. Him and Jim did.
Okay.
And then fast forward, I said my first job was at the grocery store. Jeff and Jim were working there too.
Okay.
And so that's where I kind of got to know them a little bit. And then you fast forward all the way to about 97 or 98, and that's when I was working at Willowbrook Mall. and I passed Jeff, cross paths with Jeff, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I manage Laugh Spot right there." And I was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "Yeah, you should come by. Don't worry, I'll cover your entry. Just get a couple of drinks, whatever." I was like, "Yeah, cool." So I go, and it was a lot of fun. And I was dating a girl at that time, and she wanted to make more money. She was working at, Randall's in the pharmacy,
Right.
and she wanted to wait tables. I was like, "Well, I don't. This guy Jeff, he manages Laugh Spot. I can ask him if they need any waitresses." And so I called Jeff up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll hire her." I was like, "Do you need an interview?" He's like, "No, I'll hire her. Just tell her to come in." I was like, "Okay, cool."
Right.
So when she was working there, and we were dating, pretty much every weekend I was at Laugh Spot. And so it was fun because I'm not a comedian by any means.
You never saw me there?
I probably did. I just didn't know you yet, But
I mean, I was on stage, though.
No, I know, but like we're talking 20 plus years ago.
But you should remember one joke that you liked.
The main ones I remember.
I remember him because he did this one bit. You remember any of the comedians?
Not as many of the local ones.
Didn't Andy Huggins book it? Who booked it?
I don't know. I remember some of the staff. Like I remember Lorney, the guy at the front. And then of course, well, what's funny then, if you were doing shows, you probably knew the girl I was dating back then, because she was a waitress there.
I didn't even know Jeff.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, that's funny, man. That's funny.
I would come through, do my shows. I think Andy Huggins was booking it.
I don't know who was doing the booking because I wasn't.
Well, he was another workshop comic.
So
along with Bill Hicks and
some of the ones I remember
of the other guys.
Was this guy where Jeff probably got the idea for the comedy hypnosis was the one guy Don
Lerner.
He was good.
Yeah, Uncle Don.
Not the Don. He's not the one that owned the comedy club, right?
Yes.
No, that's not who I'm talking about.
Okay.
There was another older gentleman that did the comedy hypnosis, and he traveled, and he was really sharp. He was really good at it. And I think he's passed away a few years back because I remember asking Jeff about.
He did hypnosis.
Yeah, and his hypnosis acts were really, really funny. Yeah, so in being there all the time, when Jeff started to pick up on doing the comedy hypnosis, he wanted somebody to run his soundboard, so reacting to the different sounds that he would tell him that were going to happen. But we would also, this is how long ago this was, we would video it on VHS and then sell the tapes. VHS. We were selling the tapes, and so if somebody wanted to buy it, we would he would make copies and then mail it off or whatever.
That was cool. That's a good angle.
Yeah. So he did it a few times at the comedy club. Do you remember what was Club 6400 T-Town? Do you remember T-Town on Richmond nightclub?
Vaguely.
Do you remember Club 6400?
Yes.
Okay, same place.
Upstairs.
So there was a time where he was doing shows at their little sidebar in there, and so I went with him to those, and he did a few like proms and things like that too, and I did that with Jeff for a little while.
Up until 2004. Mm-hmm. Because I remember I was still going there around 2004.
Okay.
He was still there.
I want to say when I was helping him. Let's see. So let's figure this out. The girl I was dating, she graduated high school in 99.
I think I was in LA.
Yeah, she graduated high school in 99, went to Sam Houston.
99.
And so this probably would have been about 2000 or 2001 that I was filming for Jeff and doing this.
So I know he was there to 2004. Because I was in 97, I was in LA still.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's funny. It's like how many different times I crossed paths with Jeff. Going to work at Comedy Driving.
I did not know he did hypnosis.
You know what's funny? I found one of the VHSs about a year or two ago, and I made the mistake of handing it over to him before making a copy, because I think the only reason he wanted it was so he could hide it, he could get rid of it. But do you know what his name was?
No.
If you're watching, I'm sorry, man.
Don't say it.
Haywood Hiatus.
Haywood Hiatus.
And you know what's something funny too is
better than Sam Sabbatical, I guess.
Jeff's always been a good guy, nice guy, and back then he had purchased equipment, things he discovered he didn't need, and I was DJing back at that time, and he's like, "Hey, I got this amp if you want it," and I was like, "Yeah, I could use it, it'll power my speakers," and so when I was DJing, that became my go-to amp. Right. But his Haywood Hiatus sticker that he put on the VHSs, it was on the front of the amp, and It was on there for the longest time, and I remember when people would step in the booth, they're like, "What's Haywood hiatus?"
Haywood hiatus.
And I was like, "Oh, that's a friend of mine. He does comedy hypnosis, you know." But
You know what you should have told him?
but that sticker is on. It's still on that amp to this day.
You should have told him, you don't want to know. Just make it seem more ominous than it is. You don't want to know.
Yeah.
Haywood hiatus.
Yeah. I told Damien that you were going to be coming on to the show because I was chatting with him yesterday about a website. And we were trying to find a time to meet. And he's like, "Well, I can meet you tomorrow evening." I was like, "Oh, I can't. I'm filming an episode for the podcast." I was like, "Actually, I'm filming with Craig Bush." And he was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So, yeah.
I haven't seen Damon in, a couple of months.
He
Let me see.
and Betty came over 3 weeks ago, maybe, just to say hello and see my place and come visit. It's the first time I'd seen him in probably like a year and a half, probably since I was last working at Comedy Driving, I think. Or no, I think I saw him one other time in between there. But
He's there. Well, I don't see him on Fridays anymore.
I think he told me he's only going in office like one day a week now.
Because I'm there on the weekend.
Gotcha.
Sometimes on Fridays, but I haven't seen him on a Friday. I think the last time I saw him was a few months ago on a Friday.
I need to stop by and tell everybody.
Definitely saw him at the Christmas party, of course.
I miss everybody, man. I
Yeah,
miss
we're
cracking
there.
jokes with Dwight and Rochelle, and
It's still there.
I need to go stop in and
Come
say
by.
hello.
I mean, I know it's on the other side of town, but
I want to get Dwight on here.
yeah.
You have to tell him. You have to tell him to come out.
I'll see him Friday. Oh, I can text him anytime.
Yeah. I mean, I can too, but you have to tell him that you
I'll let
actually
him know
officially
Friday.
say, I went and did the podcast with Melvin. He wants you to come on,
Yes.
and let's see if I can get him on here. We can
He's
talk
really
about.
going to want to talk sports.
Yeah. He's a big
Yeah.
sports person.
Yes.
Yep. We'll get him talking about his savage style fishing.
About what?
Savage style fishing. His
What is-
YouTube channel, his fishing YouTube channel.
Savage style fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know he had a YouTube channel.
Yep. I don't know if he's been doing as much with it lately.
You gotta
but
let me know. He should have let me know.
yeah, he
I
was
would've-
doing it with his boys. I haven't checked to
I
see
know
if
they
he's done
love to
anything.
fish. I didn't
Yeah.
know he started a channel.
Yeah,
Okay. Savage style fishing.
you got to tell him next time you see him. Say, what's this
Yeah, I'll
about
see
this
him
savage
Friday.
style
I
fishing?
sure
Why didn't you
will.
tell me about this?
I may just call him later on.
You know what it is too, though, is I think back when he was doing that, you were at one of the other locations primarily.
Yes, Sugarland.
So we didn't see you in the office as much. It was mostly at the holiday parties.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Or some meeting. I very randomly taught Katie. It was either Sugarland or Leak City.
And I was always at the main office.
I liked Leak City. Yeah, the office.
I never saw that one. Well, I take that back. I saw every location, but for like 1 minute back when I first started working there. I went in and did some photos for Jeff of the locations. Yeah, so you know what? Yeah, I should probably rewind a little bit, explain some of this to some people that are listening. They're like, what are these guys talking about? All these people we don't know.
Yeah.
So Comedy Driving, Jeff, you're getting your free plug here, comedydriving.com, funnydriving.com. But Jeff owns and operates a defensive driving company. So here in the Texas, if you get a speeding violation, moving violation, and they give you the option to take defensive driving, there's an online course. And there used to be 5 physical locations that are taught by comedians like Craig. Craig teaches the
Yes.
in-person one. But COVID
We
kind of
have a
killed.
ball in there.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I used to
So
love
much fun.
hearing that every day. It made the workday more entertaining because no 2 days were alike, you know?
We have a ball, man.
But yeah, so that's how there used to be 5 locations. And so although Craig and I worked together for years, we barely ever saw each other in person because he was at one of the other physical locations from where I was at. So, yeah, so Jeff, there's your free plug. You guys go check out comedydriving.com, funnydriving.com if you're not in Texas or in Florida, Arizona, New Mexico.
Because you know you're going to get a ticket.
Yep.
You're going to get a ticket.
And if you've got the kids learning to drive, I believe that's a new portion they have as well.
Mm-hmm.
They can go get their driver's education, self-taught driver's education.
As well.
So wasn't planning to do a promo there, but
But they need to know. Somebody needed to hear that.
yep. So what do you got going on these days,
Slow
man?
down. I'm still doing a lot of shows. I'm still, of course, teaching. I love that. I don't never want to stop teaching defensive drive. I love the interaction, and we have a ball. We have such a good time that at 3:30 or at 3 o'clock when it's time to go, people still hang out.
Yeah.
We just hang out, listening to Michael Bublé.
You know what? That's one thing I do remember when you did teach there is Craig has a very vast knowledge of music. And in between class, he'd always put on different music, and it was kind of refreshing because the other instructors Man, what's his Iglesias?
Julio Iglesias?
No, not Iglesias. What? The fat Hispanic comedian guy that does all the
Gabriel Iglesias.
Gabriel Iglesias. I damn near have every one of his acts memorized because between breaks they would play those videos every single day for years. I would hear those, the whole Fluffy. I used to know his whole routine from start to finish because I heard it so much. But when Craig was there, we got all kinds of. It was like DJ Craig over there with all this different music and throwback stuff that I hadn't heard in forever. So
I had a lady took my class. Well, actually, she came in early.
Mm-hmm.
I normally show up about 8:15. She came in like at 8:05. When I walked in, because Jim opened the back door for me, I walked in. This lady sitting there. Someone has put on the Gabriel, the Fluffy tape, but it's looping.
Yes.
They haven't.
Just the intro.
Yes, and it's just looping.
Yes.
And she is going crazy. It was bugging her.
Yeah.
She was about 80. She was just shaking.
It's annoying. I'm like, just go hit play or something.
She said, "Could you please please?" She was shaking. It was just looping.
God.
I don't know how many times you heard it before I came in there, but I heard it at least 20 times because I was trying to get situated, and it was just looping.
Ray was notorious for that because he'd go turn it on, and then he would go into the restroom, and it just looping. I would come from my desk, go out there, hit play, come back.
Just break the monotony of it. Now that is really on the video. I have that, and I have Jim Gaffigan, and I have Brian Reagan. So for the most part, I know all their acts as well. I was like, oh.
Talking about comedy laugh spot days, right? That's another thing that was kind of funny, right? So the guys who were there on a regular basis, they were usually like the MC of the night or the comedians that would come through like twice a month. Back then there wasn't social media. Right. So you could run the same comedy act for a pretty long time without having to worry about somebody else had already seen it or heard it.
Right.
I was there every week, and it got to the point where their acts, I had them memorized. Like I knew the punchlines. I knew they were going to make references to Tomball. Like I knew all their jokes, and I'm like, guys, you got to get new material. You've been telling the same jokes for 2 years now. You could get away with it back then. Now there's no.
Yes.
Then there was no Netflix specials
if you
back then.
if you did television, you could not.
Yeah. But I saw a lot of good acts come through there too.
Carl LeBeau.
I don't know. I saw the only ones I remember are the big names. So I remember like Michael Winslet was hilarious.
Right.
Like all the Police Academy guys, Michael Winslet, Bobcat Goldthwait. What's the guy that's doing the TV commercials and he's like money?
Jimmy Walker.
I saw Jimmy.
You money.
I saw him a couple of times. One of the times I saw him was on New Year's Eve.
Was he Dynamite?
Dynamite, yeah. He's funny because he makes all these jokes. And I don't want to offend anybody because I don't get offended by this stuff. It doesn't matter to me. But half his jokes were kind of like jokingly kind of bad-mouthing white people. But then at the end, his wife comes out and gives him a kiss on the cheek, and his wife was white. So it's like, it was funny just because like I didn't care no matter what. But I was like, but then when she comes out, it's like, oh, it was hilarious.
Things people do for $50,000.
Yeah. Saw Pauly Shore there.
Pauly Shore. I worked with Pauly Shore.
He's one of those guys that like he's funny, but he's also a big douchebag.
Well, he's Pauly Shore.
Yeah. It's like
my mom is the biggest liaison in the business.
So don't hate on me, Pauly fans. I watched all his movies. I actually even took in my son-in-law VHS and he signed it for me.
He should have got nominated.
Yeah.
He's a great actor. So just understand this is
I'm glad to see he's had a little bit of a revival in recent years. He's done a few movies, even though they weren't like big hits. They were some pretty funny ones. The one where he wouldn't move out of the pool house. Did you see that one?
Yeah, he's a Valley guy.
And then I just saw a funny skit with him the other day. Do you know who Ed Bassmaster is?
Not by name.
This is a YouTuber.
Bassmaster.
Yeah, he's a YouTube guy, and this dude's a character, man. He's a character, and he doesn't come out of character. So he has like these 5 or so different characters he does, and he has somebody way far away videoing him. He's mic'd,
right? And
he'll go around in public, and he'll just do these like silly things.
Oh,
like
his characters.
Yeah, so his characters, but he does not break character. There's one where he just it's hard to explain. He's got like like an outfit you would see like in the 80s or maybe the late 70s, like the white pants with like the shirt with like little plaid on it, and like the white loafers, and then he's got like a mullet and like a golfer type hat and some like big shades, and he'll go up and he'll be like, look at it. Would you just look at it? Look at this sunset. Just look at it. And people are like, what is wrong with this guy? And, you know,
I like the fact that it's non-threatening.
Yeah, but it's just like the comedy is so simple and basic, but he doesn't break character. He doesn't start laughing in the middle of it. And then he kind of like awkwardly usually walks away, and then you just see the people standing around like, what the hell was that? Because they don't know they're being videoed. And so but he did a skit with Pauly Shore. I saw it the other day, and Pauly Shore had him on his, I don't know if it was like a video podcast or if it was like YouTube. I don't know what it was. I saw it on, maybe it was Facebook or Instagram. Right. But I guess leading up to it, Ed Bassmaster was supposed to be kind of asking all these questions to Pauly. But then when they went live, he was like, I don't even know you, Pauly. I'm just here because you told me you want me to come on because I have a bigger following than you. And, you know, like, and you want me to ask you all these questions. I don't even know who you are. You know, and it's kind of like dissing Pauly, but it was so like dead on that I was like, wait, is Pauly in on this? Or is he really kind of like in character and dissing Pauly? I couldn't tell. It was done so well that I didn't know if he was truly dissing him or if he was just in character.
I'm check him out.
He's
a Bassmaster.
Yeah. I'll show you. I'll show you when we wrap up here. But I mean, it's really silly, cheesy humor, but it's funny.
But it always works.
And he's all over social media. He's
People
all
love
over
the G's.
YouTube. Speaking of social media and stuff, is there anything that you have that you want to plug?
I have a girlfriend I'm trying to plug. No,
she might not the way you said that there.
I'm trying to plug it.
What are you like her socials and stuff? What is she doing?
Well, she's trying to actually get me up to speed on all the social media. Well, she's telling me that I need to get off MySpace. And,
are you really on MySpace or no?
Yeah, I'm on MySpace. I got 11 friends. What are you talking about? eight pending.
Yeah.
But me and Tom like this.
Everybody's friends with Tom.
Man,
that
Tom,
white marker board.
Me and Tom. I say, Tom. Last time I talked, I said, Tom, tell me about the time you lost $3 billion in 45 minutes.
You know, I got a MySpace, man. That's an early one. So a lot of the younger people don't know what that is. But even before MySpace,
did I date myself?
My first one before MySpace was Friendster.
Friendster.
And I remember I got Friendster.
That was when it was a super highway, right?
Yeah, I did Friendster, right? And so like I friend requested some people, sent emails to people and said, hey, you should join Friendster. And this girl I knew from high school, she's like, Friendster's whack. You need to get on MySpace. You can customize it. And I was like, okay, let me go see what this MySpace thing's about. And you know, you go in when you go on MySpace, you go to somebody's profile. It's all these thinking colors and videos that are auto playing, and it's just like craziness, right? Yes. It was like a mess, and that was what kind of made it fun and unique because it was like, oh, I can make my identity on social. Well, we didn't even have the term social media; didn't even exist. Right. I can make my identity on the internet. You know.
Yeah, the superhighway.
And yeah, and so like MySpace is what really kind of like
launched it. For the most part.
It's what launched it, but it's also what led me to where I am today in a weird way.
As your Atari.
Because for me, MySpace was my introduction to learning HTML, right? I didn't know how to build a website, but I wanted to learn how to customize my MySpace. And so I started researching, and this was before school at YouTube was as big as it is these days, you know. And so you would find these like chat boards or these people who would have these pages or websites that are just like, hey, this is how you manipulate the code on your MySpace page, and here's how you start writing it. And so that's when I started learning like basic HTML, and I taught myself. And then that's also what got me into the nightlife because I started realizing.
And you like to boogie.
Yeah, so I started realizing, you know, like, hey, this MySpace thing, I can get in front of a lot of people I've never met before. And to this day, there's people I met because I met them on MySpace. But so I started doing club promotions, and I had a club promotion page separate from my personal MySpace page, and I started promoting clubs, and that got me into the nightlife. And then you know, the more I got into that, I was already doing photography, but then my photography started to grow, and then we graduate from MySpace to Facebook, and then Twitter, and you know, it all just kind of goes from there. But it's
Right.
like all of that stuff I was learning back then. Once I started learning basic HTML, then I started learning how to build websites, right? And when I started learning how to build websites, then I started teaching myself SEO. And what do I do for a living? I manage all of those products now for a living, and it all started literally from MySpace. Like
Well, there you go,
it's
Tom.
kind of
There
funny,
you
you
go.
know. I don't know that I would have ever ended up that direction if I didn't get into that stuff.
Well, that's basically what my girl's trying to do. She's trying to tell me to get into get a fan page. I'm getting there. I'm just not
It's it's
really technical savvy, but I'm trying to get better.
I'll say this is what I always tell everybody, right? Because I consult with people all the time. They're like, "Well, I want to go in and do all the socials." I'm like, "Which ones do you actually spend time on? Which ones do you enjoy?" Right? If they name 2 or 3, and they say, but they want to get on 10 different ones, I'm like, only focus on the 3 that you really engage with on the most. Start building and growing your audience there first. Get used to using it as a business and not just personal use, because you have to change your mindset. Every post you make is methodical, right?
Right.
There's a thought behind it. How's somebody going to receive it? How is it going to take you to the next level? How is it going to gain you more followers? How is it going to make your content go viral? So you have to think it's not just the same as going and sharing a bunch of memes on your feed because you saw something funny, right?
Right.
And then if you feel comfortable enough that you say, okay, I've got like Facebook down, I got Instagram down, or maybe yours is TikTok or whatever, right? Get a couple of the platforms down first, create a formula, a schedule of whatever works for you, and then slowly introduce another one and another one and another one. But then it comes to time balance, right? The balance of managing all these different social accounts as opposed to whatever your business or your profile or your content is built around, right? Are you a social influencer? Are you a YouTuber? Are you a photographer? So now you have to find the time to balance that trade and the time that you need to put that trade in front of people on social media. So it's a give and take, you know. So if you try to just go full force to all social media, it's too overwhelming. You're not gonna absorb it. You're gonna burn out real fast. So just start with like 1 or 2.
What do you
And
do?
gradual.
Which one did you pick? Facebook and
Well, so I've been doing it so
Instagram?
long, you know, like it's. So I have a lot of different things I do, right? So I have my photography stuff, and then I have my personal stuff, and then I have my blog, and now this podcast, right? So MMP Studios is my photography. I have that as a website, and then I also have that as a Facebook page, Instagram page. I used to do Tumblr. Tumblr's done. So that was like 3 additional accounts that I was managing. And then my personal stuff, I have my personal Facebook. I have a Facebook fan page for my personal name. I have Instagram, Twitter. Oh, I also have Twitter for MMP Studios as well. And then all of those things also mix into my personal YouTube account. I've just recently posted my first TikTok, although I've been signed up for TikTok for about 3 years now. I just wasn't really using it. I know TikTok is huge right now, but for the content I'm producing, I haven't found the right way to leverage it yet. Instagram, I'm primarily using for photos. They're really hard on trying to push video content. And Instagram is a mess now because it's just another Facebook, right? And I want my Instagram to be about my photography. I keep getting all these offers. Oh, we'll pay you $1,200 to do reels, and I don't want video content. I don't want short 60-second videos all over my Instagram. I want photos because I like to take photos, you know. So I haven't caved and gone to the video route on Instagram. I'm starting to take some of my old video content and repurpose it to my Facebook fan page. Just because I feel like it's at this point, what do I have to lose? I can monetize on both accounts. But, you know, and Ghost Texas is another one. So that's another thing I do. I do paranormal investigations, and that's a whole nother set.
Paranormal investigations.
Yes. So I have a whole nother set of social media for all of that. So another Facebook, another Twitter, another Instagram, another TikTok, another website, another blog, another YouTube. It's a whole nother YouTube channel. So yeah, I mean, like when you start going through all the different stuff I do, also with photography, there's another one I use called EYEM, EYE''EM. I probably have about 40 to 50 different social media accounts that I run just for me and my own personal things. Now that doesn't include the ones that I do for businesses.
Right.
So it can be very consuming. So again, kind of going back to the reference of like
Wow.
not really paying much attention to sports, it's because unfortunately I'm glued to a computer or a camera most of the time, and it's just a fun balancing act, you know, of all that stuff. I didn't mean to go on such a side tangent
I'm
with all
loving
that.
it. I'm loving
But
it.
it's one of those things when I first sit down with somebody who's like, I want to do YouTube or I want to do this, I want to do that. I say, all right, let's meet, let's consult. I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons. I'm not trying to
They say
scare
they
you.
want to do a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They're saying, okay.
I was like, I'm not trying to scare you off of doing it, but just know that it's real work. It's not like, oh, I went and filmed a 5-minute video and now I'm going to become viral. No, it's not that simple. It doesn't happen that fast. You know, now every now and then you might get somebody who just for whatever reason something takes
Has
off.
a
and
video that kicks off.
Yeah.
Now, what about the content? How much content has to be uploaded daily? I know they can't do one 5-minute video and we go viral, but what if they did 15 videos?
What is the okay? So is this for you as a comedian?
Well, I'm just saying there's a channel. Yeah, whereas me. Or let's say someone wanted to just do wood shops. They're just making stools and tables, and they're.
I mean, I would say like stuff like that. You could probably put out 2 to 3 videos a week, if you could produce that many that quickly. Even if you only did one a week and you built a core audience, they would probably be happy with that one a week. But if you really wanted to start to capitalize on it and monetize it more, push yourself to get 2 videos out a week, and then once you get down
What
to
about one a day? Seems.
you could do one a day, but the thing here's that kind of goes more to like daily vlogging, right? So here, let's use this as an example. The podcast, actually, my first podcast actually went live today. That was filmed on, I had 2 guests, it was my parents.
Right.
That was filmed on 3 cameras, 4 mics. And when you take all that into Premiere and you start chopping it up and editing it, and you got 3 cameras that are shooting 4K video. A podcast is a little bit simpler because you're really just kind of matching it up to the audio and then you're choosing what angle you want, but you still have some time that you have to take to put that together. So it was a 1-hour episode. It took about 35 to 40 minutes to render it after I edited it. The editing itself, because I did a split 4 screen, so I have my logo and then I have 3 separate squares for me and the guests.
Right.
So kind of figuring out how I was going to do that. So that took me probably a couple hours to get that part sorted, right? Then about 40 minutes to render it. It took 3 hours to export it. And then after I exported it and uploaded it to YouTube, it took another 40 or so minutes to upload to YouTube. And then once it's uploaded to YouTube, it doesn't mean you can just go live immediately. What a lot of people don't realize is when you upload a video to YouTube, it's better not to make it live immediately. It's better to schedule it out for a day or 2 later. And the reason for that is when it first uploads it and it only releases it at the lowest resolution. So it's going to release it at 240 resolution. And then it's going to keep rendering on the background. And then once the higher quality one's available, then it's going to release the 480 resolution until it gets all the way up to the 4K mark, right? So it took about 2 days before the 4K, which is kind of slow in my opinion, but it is an hour video. But if I would have tried to release it the day after I uploaded it, it probably would have only been available in what's the one below? 720. It would have been 720 or 1080. So yeah, so going back to what you were saying about doing a video a day, right? If you're doing 5 to 7 minute videos and you're using one single camera, one source, yes, you could do a daily video. But that 7-minute video is going to probably take an hour's worth of editing, processing, uploading. And
It
then
is work.
And then you have to be clever with your title. Then you have to be clever with your thumbnail. If you don't have a catchy thumbnail, nobody's even going to click on your video, right? And then you want to do all your hashtags and your video description. And then if you're doing any outbound links to any of your social platforms or anything that you discussed in the video, you have to have all that stuff lined up. Every video I release also gets put onto my website. Actually, some of them go to more than one website. So then I have to prep all the content for those other websites. So that means I have to have the thumbnail formatted to the size for the website. I have to go build the post on the website, schedule the post on the website, embed the video. So a lot of these things seem like, oh, those are 5-minute tasks, another 5-minute task, but they all start to add up. And next thing you know, one piece of content takes half a day or a day to produce. So yes, you could do daily videos, but in the beginning, start small, and just focus on getting one piece of content out a week if you can. And by content, I'm talking about if you're doing video format. Now, if you're a social influencer and you're doing primarily photos and videos, then you can do short snippet videos, selfie style, put those up almost immediately. A lot of them have input platform editing, so Reels and TikTok, you can do the editing straight through their platform, put your music on it, and get it to go up quick. But as much as you think people are just doing that stuff on the fly, I guarantee you they've mapped it out. They're like, all right, this is what's trending. How can I do my own take on this? This is what I want to be wearing in the video. I think I should shoot it at this location because it'll make it more unique. Right. This is how I'm going to do it. And then they might take 10 different takes before they actually get the one that you see on that platform and the final edit. So people have misunderstanding that it's not work, and it is work. So that's my biggest take on it, is telling people, because I can't tell you how many people I know that's like, my kid wants to start YouTube. I'm like, great. What did they go watch these kids and think that they just have fun? No, they're watching that 5-minute video, but they don't realize that it took them 12 hours to put that 5-minute video together.
Right.
So
12 hours for 5 minutes sounds like work.
But I mean, it depends on what kind of content you're trying to put out. It depends on what kind of what you are representing. If you're a model, right, then somebody else is probably taking the photos and editing them of you. So you're taking their photos and posting them. So you're putting in the time of getting pretty and getting in front of the camera, but then you got to wait for the pictures to come back to you so that you can take and share the pictures. And then you have to have content in between that to keep your audience engaged, right? So that comes back to maybe like the stories or the reels or the smaller posts where you're kind of engaging with your audience and making them feel like they know you. So we could talk about this stuff. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The social media.
Yeah, it's funny. We call it social media,
named, huh?
But I think it's antisocial because it keeps us glued to our phones and computers and less engagement in person.
Exactly.
Craig, I think this might be a good spot for us to wrap it. We're a little over an hour right now.
Wrap it.
And that way we have time to do another one in the future, man.
Will do. I appreciate it. I can't wait for the next one. This one was
absolutely.
a lot of fun.
Do you have
very informative?
This all started with. Did you have anything to plug? So you don't have a website or a social media account?
Well, I do have. Yes, I have a Facebook account.
Okay.
Craig Bush.
Okay.
Just comedian Craig Bush, and I'm on Instagram as well.
So what we'll do here is, if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to put the links in the description. I am not live yet as at the time of recording this. I'm not on any of the podcast networks yet, but eventually once I am on the podcast networks, any of the ones that do allow the ability to include a link, I will be linking. Craig's
you got to
info.
come see me. I'm going to be at a couple of weeks. I'm here at Phil and Derek's downtown, right downtown, right on Webster, right here. Webster,
you keep forgetting you're down here, right?
Webster and Hamilton, yes. Webster and Hamilton. How far are we from there? About 8 blocks.
Webster and Hamilton.
Yeah, right off of Jackson, Hamilton, Webster.
Is that more Midtown?
Yes, that's Midtown.
Okay,
You got
okay.
McGowan, Jackson,
yes.
Hamilton, Webster. That little.
Yep,
block.
I know what you're talking about.
Phil and Derek's Jazz Club. I'm going to be there at the end of the month.
Awesome, dude.
So come by if you can. Just let me know. I'll take care of you. I'll get you seated, get you drinks, get you good. I'm going to be there with Billy D. Washington at the end of this month, and we're going to have a ball. Billy D. does. He has a keyboard. He does music within his act.
Just in case you're watching this after that announcement, or if I don't get this turned around quickly enough to be live before that show, if you want to check out Craig's shows, feel free to reach out to me. And
last weekend of this month.
I'll also go ahead and if you keep me in the loop on your shows, I'll push them out on my social media too for you, Craig.
Will do. I'll be there.
Well, thanks, man. It's been a blast. It's been good catching up. Again, I appreciate you coming on. If you guys are listening to this for the first time or seeing this on YouTube for the first time, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, please download or follow if you're listening on the podcast networks.
And keep laughing.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one.